How's it going, everybody? It's me, Abraham, and today we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about installing Node in a brand new, fresh, clean Pop OS, currently version 19.04 Linux instance. Before today, actually, I was running Fedora, which I'd been running since Fedora 28. I really enjoyed working with Fedora. It's one of my favorite distros, but unfortunately, due to some recent changes in the licensing for MongoDB, I couldn't install MongoDB and I needed it. And there was a couple of other tools as well that, their licenses were conflicting with Fedora, and it was just a really big pain and hassle to get it to work. So I decided it was time that I switched over to another OS that would allow me to install some of this software. PopOs, works really well. I really recommend it. Matter of fact, I'd used it a long time ago. I had purchased a System 76 laptop probably about 4 years ago, maybe, and it came with Pop! OS. Maybe it wasn't 4 years ago, probably a little more recent. But it came out when Pop! OS was really just more like a theme on top of Ubuntu, and eventually it became its own thing, I guess. But the point being, I love it. I think it's really developer friendly. It's really beautiful and clean. And it actually supports NVIDIA drivers if you have an NVIDIA video card. This particular laptop that I'm using right now actually has Intel drivers because it has an Intel video card. So that's the version that I got for this. But so let's go ahead and get started. The only changes that I did before doing anything else, sorry, I had a little bit of a brain fart there. The only thing that I did was install Chrome because I prefer it to Firefox, but you can leave Firefox, there's nothing wrong with that. I installed the JetBrains IDEs, but if you don't have a JetBrains subscription or license, go ahead and use VS Code. I mean, VS Code is a very good IDE and code editor. I also installed NeoVim. I prefer it to Vim. We can talk about that in another video. And I changed my shell from, the regular bash to ZSH. Again, it's one of my preferences. And of course, configured Git and a couple of other things. But what we're going to do is just go over installing Node. So when you go over to the node.js.org website, you'll be presented with the options to download either the long-term support or the current version. Of course, the current version is always going to have some of the latest features, but they may be a little buggy sometimes. So if you're running something in production, usually a lot of companies will require that you use the long-term support version. For this case, I'm just going to go ahead and install the current version, I believe. So what we'll do is we can look at installing the Node.js via the package managers. And since this is Pop! OS, which runs off of it's a flavor of Ubuntu, we're going to go ahead and click this link here. And what we'll do is follow this official Node.js binary distributions link. Let's go ahead and scroll down. Okay, la-di-da-di-da. So this is what we want here. I do want version 12. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And let's see what's the difference between both of these. Using Debian. Nope. Alright. So let's go ahead and pull this off to the side. So in case you did not know, you can actually click and hold your window in Ubuntu, and then it'll snap to the side. And I find this really handy whenever I'm trying to multitask. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and paste my command right in, and then hit enter. Put my super long complicated password of, I guess it's not 1234. There you go, 12345. And what this will do is just pull down the packages and do the installation. So what we're going to want to do after this is go ahead and make sure that it's installed by checking node -- version. Let's go ahead and do that now. Yep, 12.6. Was that the latest? Yes, sir. And let's see if npm was also installed. Yep, that's on there as well. And so what's something that we could do with this now? Okay, so let's go ahead and create a server, actually. That's pretty basic. Matter of fact, it's one of the tutorials on node.js.org. Node node.js.org. Yep, that's right. So let's go to code, and we're going to open up Vim for this, just because Vim's going to be a little bit faster than loading up the whole WebStorm thing. And we're going to call this server.js, and we're going to create a couple of variables. The first one's going to be our import of the HTTP package. Next, we want our host name, which is basically the IP address where we're going to listen to this. And we're going to want to make sure that it's localhost only right now. And we're going to set a port, which is 3000. Now, when it comes to ports, in development, usually you can use port 3000, 4000, 8080, 8888, etc. I mean, there's a whole bunch of ports that you can choose, but those are the most common. And after we've set our ports here, let's go ahead and create our server object. Sorry. Create server. And what this is going to do, it's going to take a function that has a request and a response argument. And here, what we're going to say is when the request comes in, we're going to set a response that has a status code of 200. It's going to have a, let's set a header, which takes a key and a value. And here we're going to set our content type. And for this example, we're just going to set it to text plain. And then we're going to end this by sending over some data. We're going to say hello world. And actually, let's go ahead and also add a new line character here. Okay. So once we've created this object for the server, whoops, everybody's probably screaming at me and saying, hey, you didn't hit your equal sign here. All right, there we go. So now we're going to call the listen method on here. And what we want to do is say we want to listen on port, which is going to be 3000, the host name, and then we're going to have a callback here that basically is just going to output some information for us. And what I'm going to use is a string template literal, which means I can say server is running at HTTP host name port. Okay. So instead of doing this long way, which would be like string concatenation, where you do something like console log and then you'd say server is running at http / and then plus to concatenate, and then you'd say host name and then colon and then your port, etc. It's just much cleaner and easier to use our template literal up above. And since we're using the latest version of Node, that's going to work, so we're good. So let's go ahead and quit this. And now what we're going to do to run this script, we just run node and then pass in the name of our file. And what this is letting us know is it's saying, hey, we're listening at this particular link here. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and open this. Can I open it from here? Maybe. Let's see, where is my Chrome? It is on my other screen. So let's go ahead and pull this over. So what I'm going to do now is just navigate to localhost port 3000, and we can see here that it says hello world. Now you may be asking yourself, what's up with all this set header stuff? Why did we add that in? Where does it come into play? If you're ever curious about finding out which headers are being sent over from the server or from the browser client to, when making these calls, we can actually take a look at the network tab in the Chrome Dev Tools. However, one thing that I do recommend is, since this is my dev profile, I have some tools here that I use when developing. So I can actually switch over to my screencasts, which has no extensions or plugins or anything at all. And the reason why that's important is because if you look at the requests here, a lot of the Chrome extensions are actually going to pollute what we see. Because if we make this request, we see that we have a JWT script that's running, some Angular scripts that are running, etc. And this is just making it a lot messier when I'm trying to look at my requests. Of course, I know that I made a call to localhost, but as you have more and more scripts coming in, it can just be kind of annoying, right? Distracting, I guess is a better word. So with this profile, which has no plugins installed, I can go ahead and open my inspector, navigate to my local host, and then from here, if I go to my network tab and refresh, actually it's there already, but you'll see here that I only see the call that I sent over. None of these extra scripts came in. So when we're looking at this network tab, we can see everything that was requested from the client and what we received from the server. So it looks like when we made the initial request, let me go ahead and close this one here. Whoops. When we made the initial request, the browser actually sent in some data like its user agent string, where the host we're trying to connect to, with the language that it accepts, the encoding, and then which data it's going to accept as well. So what we sent back is we sent this content type text plain, which just lets the browser know how it's going to render this piece of information. If we'd sent in some other type of content type, then it would have rendered differently. And yep, that's pretty much all there is to this, really. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is walk over installing Express and Express generators so we can get an Express app running up and quickly, and also how to install MongoDB. And one of the things that I was interested in doing as well is possibly showing how to build an app that you can really deploy. Because one of the problems that I find when I'm looking at tutorials on YouTube is a lot of these tutorials, almost like this one actually, they tend to be very basic, hello world, or, well, yeah, this is a hello world tutorial. But the point is the very next video is actually going to show you to build an app where you can do something like implement authentication with Passport, JWT, using JWT tokens, storing and hashing these passwords in the database, or rather salted, encrypted versions of it, and being able to actually build something that you can deploy on Heroku and let's say like Netlify that you can actually place into your portfolio on GitHub and just share. It's not going to be something that's just basic and plain and just a waste of time, because sometimes this hello world stuff can be very plain. It doesn't really give you too much value, but the reason why I'm actually doing this video right now is just to see if my equipment works well, if I'm able to actually get through a full video. And if this sounds like it worked and it was interesting, go ahead and let me know in the comments what type of projects you want to learn about. There's a lot of different frameworks. We can go over React, we can go over Angular, we can go over using Postgres as well. But for the next one, I think it's going to be MongoDB, but there's a lot that we can do. So it's all up to you guys. Let me know what you find interesting, if you found this interesting, and if not, let me know how I can improve it in the comments down below, all right? So that's it. See ya.